Hello, my friends, welcome. Now, if you are sensitive to energy, then you have probably been feeling the intensity amplify as we come towards this full moon. This next full moon that we're having is tomorrow at the time of filming, the 19th of August. This is a full moon in Aquarius, and I really feel like this is going to hit us in aspects of life that require our deepest truth. Now, this can be truth with self, being able to come to the truth and depths of our being, what it is that we want. The world has changed massively, and I personally think that even if we use the last 4 years as a time frame, so much will have changed, so much will perhaps need to change. There is this feeling of frustration, of not quite knowing perhaps where we are, what we're doing, where we're going, and only knowing that there are things that we're experiencing the gap between the things that we perhaps once wanted or have been experiencing, the life that might have been really comfortable, and then the vision that we have. And it might not even be a very clear vision. It can just be this feeling, the sensation of, I need to move in this direction, or I want to explore this as an opportunity. There is so much energy that is not fully formed. It is a sensation of intangible, I wanted to say temptation, but that's not the right word. It's like a lure. It's an interest, an intrigue, a calling, whatever you want to call it, that might be pulling us towards particular subjects, topics, experiences, modalities of healing, of work, of expression in any way, in any aspect of our lives. But what we really need to do at this time, what will really, really help us at an individual level, and I just want to, reaffirm, I don't create these videos to, have any kind of leadership or guruship status. It's simply that I'm dealing with these energies within myself at the same time. And for years now, I've been called to show up and express that in videos, and how in a way that hopefully will help other people. So these are just my feelings, my experiences, tapped into the collective energy, and obviously the other people that I work with, support and assist and serve. So let's get into it. I'm going to try and keep this a bit briefer as well, because I know there is truth within us always, and there is this feeling sometimes of getting so far with something. We come to a place where all of a sudden it feels like it's lost its charm, maybe it's lost its magic. And what it is most often is that we've integrated that as a part of our being. That's become a normal part of our life. So perhaps maybe you had spiritual practices or gym practices or work practices that felt really, at one point, because they were new, there was that honeymoon period of it being an intensely new, exciting, vibrant experience. And then when that becomes an integral part of our life, of our being, of our day to day, we don't get that same sensation of interest, of intrigue, and it can feel stagnant. And it's not to say that what has come before is wrong, but it's saying that there is more to learn, there is more to grow into, there is more to evolve into if you want to. And this can be in any aspect of our lives. But what it can feel is a little bit destabilizing. And it's being able to have those rational, but also deeply emotional and sensitive conversations or dialogues with ourselves in whatever way. This is where I talk about journaling again, so that we can get to that root, we can get to that place of truth and really uncover what it is that's calling us. And it's interesting because we can see how this pattern of almost like dopamine chasing, with short form video and things, has truly affected us as, the generations now. Several generations have been impacted by the ways in which we receive information has changed. But this is information that comes from the self. And it's really important to acknowledge what has been a vital, helpful, growth inducing part or expression within our lives, whilst then feeling into those places that might be calling us to something new, that might be calling us to something deeper, to something that is going to help enrich us, but also allow us to explore more of ourselves, of the world, of this self-expression, so that we can then embody that too. And it becomes this cycle, this pattern. But what I'm feeling at the moment is this sensation of knowing that something new is coming, but it's not quite here yet. So then we have this liminal space where, excuse me, things aren't fully realized. There isn't a full form, there isn't a full path, there isn't clarity perhaps. And sometimes what we need then is to go through these explorations of truth and also of mistruth. Now, I find the truth is very, very interesting. It's a very broad, encompassing word, but really it comes down to something, because it's an abstract, it's not an absolute. But what the truth is, to you have universal truths, universal laws, they are absolutes. And then we have anything that has our own subjective, human, personal experience. Then our truth is something very different. It's very, very personal. And we can spend a long time chasing away or trying to silence that inner truth out of a place of comfortability, a fear of letting people down, of obligation, of duty. And whilst those things are all important, we have to acknowledge our truth within them. There are inevitably duties and things that, our truth has to work within. We have to find ways of embodying our truth within certain obligations and duties. I don't want to say obligations because I don't think that's the right word, but it's duties, things that, we are just and bound to do. Things like, certain aspects of family life, things like that. But there are these spaces where we become so attached to an idea of self, an identification of self. It can be in the ways that we dress, in the ways that we do particular things, the ways we think about certain things, the types of people that we spend time with, the ways in which we spend time with certain people. Deeper within that, there will be things that perhaps have just become this idea of self, but it makes us uncomfortable at some kind of existential level. And there is a calling to something more, to something deeper, to something different. It doesn't mean better or worse necessarily, but it is a sensation that leads us to explore. And it's the exploration of whatever is coming up, because it might not be very clear. The truth feels like something that's very clear. I feel like this full moon is going to be bringing up, because it does, that's what full moons do, they illuminate. It's going to be bringing up what needs to be seen, what is outdated, what is outgrown, what is now perhaps even holding us back, and has become this very deep self-identification with something that has outgrown or has been a valid part of our lives, but is a chapter that's now ready to close. And it's that in-between space that can feel very it's that step of walking out in faith, in trusting that we might not have all the answers. And I also feel like this is the exploration. It's the exploration of that discomfort, of those sensations, of the new possibilities. Not all of it is going to lead us to a brand new path that we want to explore. But just as we need to experience positive experiences in our lives that reinforce these are things that we enjoy, these are things that we love, sometimes it takes trying things that we don't enjoy or experiencing things that we don't like, that we don't want to be a part of our lives, that then teach us, actually, it's not that, I don't want to go in that way. And this is the exploration of that deeper inner truth. And it's not an absolute, because it is subjective. So this is the truth that is your truth, our truth, at an individual level. Being able to come to a place of understanding what it is that we need, or what we want to express, and how that's asking us to make changes within our lives. And what this can do is lead us to have difficult conversations. It can lead us to need to be honest and to be open. And let's face it, the truth is very polarizing because it is so personal. It's not written down in law unless it's, the truth about certain events that have taken place, and we're looking at it in that way. But this is more about our emotional experiences of life, of what we're doing, our emotional experience. It's being honest with that. And truth and honesty aren't always easy. They're not always the easiest things to do. That's why so many people are avoidant of it. And there is so much that is said and done in mistruth, in miscommunication. And that's not always intentional, because it takes an awful lot of bravery and courage to be really, really honest with ourselves, to be able to honor our feelings and our truth, and then to make those changes, and to be able to do that in a loving and calm and most peaceful way when it impacts other people, and realize that they are, of course, going to have their own truth about the situation too, if it involves relationships, business partnerships, connections. Um, it requires them to be allowed to have their own emotional experience. And whilst we're not responsible for that, for their interpretation and their emotional experience, we are responsible for the ways in which that we express ourselves, the ways in which we treat others, for the ways in which we communicate with others. So there is an importance here of really acknowledging what is going to come up at this time, what has already been coming up. For many of us, this is perhaps the culmination point where a lot of things are coming together, and there could be very rapid realizations of things that we need to do and things that we need to change. This could be that point. This could be that point where the roads cross, the paths cross, where they converge, and we start to see with a deeper, it feels like it's going to be more of a feeling, as opposed to a thinking. Maybe not figuring things out so much in our minds, but feeling through them, and realizing that sometimes is our greatest guide point. Those deep emotions and sensations of, we try something, and even though on paper it may make perfect logical sense, it may look fantastic, it could look like the best opportunity in the world, but then when you go and do it and you actually start practicing that thing, or you try it, or you go to that place, you have that experience, you feel completely differently. And then we get into this inner conflict of the mind, of the logic, of the reasoning, and the whys and the duties, the expectations of why we should pick that path, why we should do that thing, in a very stark contrast to, but it makes me feel like this. Actually, this isn't fulfilling. This isn't satisfying. It isn't what I want to pursue. This isn't what I want to do, because the conflict between those things is what breeds resent. It's what leads us to shut down. And whilst we all, again, have duties, obligations, it's finding the next step, the next increment that feels, that satisfies and serves both. So it's not always making a complete, the truth and the awareness can lead us to a path of change. It doesn't mean the change happens overnight. And working with those steps, with those increments, honoring, the harvest time, um, from a different perspective, honoring what we have reaped and what we have realized at this point in the year, as it's harvest time in the northern hemisphere. At least we're at the end of summer, or in the final time of summer, which is always beautiful, but it brings with it a lot of realization that leads us to the autumn, that leads us to that point of letting go, of shedding some skin, of releasing what hasn't worked. This is a process. It's a cyclical process when we learn to work with our natural rhythms, with the rhythms of life, of nature. We can honor all of these experiences, and all of them can help us to honor ourselves and our lives, and our natural experience of our time here on earth and living. So there is a lot to be taken in. There is going to be a lot coming up. We are always responsible for the ways in which we approach our conversations with others. And I really feel like truth, honesty, and openness are the ways in which we can do that most effectively at this time. However, this full moon in particular and the rest of August might be a time of realization, of having the ideas, the experiences, maybe testing the water with some different experiences, different, trying new things simply, and then making those decisions, making our minds up. That's a terrible expression. That's a terrible phrase, because getting to the next point of truth, the next increment of truth, at which we can make our minds up about a few things that we can actually have change and impact on. We are always responsible for ourselves. We cannot control other people. We cannot control them through our emotional experiences, because that isn't their truth. And it's not right to do that, in my opinion. We can only present ourselves, conduct ourselves, and be honest with ourselves with the highest level of personal integrity and compassion, to recognize that everybody that we interact with will have their own experience, and we have to honor that as well, but also allow them to process it in their own ways. So it's going to be an interesting time, and I haven't talked about the global stage or anything at this point, because I really feel that regardless, it's not to say that there isn't anything going on that we shouldn't be aware of and taking note of, but again, we can only focus on doing what we can do. If we have practical ways of helping in some of those bigger scenarios on the stage, then that's really important. And it will be on a very personal level, what we feel called to do, what we feel called to change. But at a wider and level, we're witnessing so much playing out. And again, each of us within the collective has a responsibility for our own experiences and how we can positively change, adapt, grow, evolve, and how that impacts the people around us, hopefully in a positive way, but also taking responsibility for the ways in which we have maybe been showing up that have a less than positive impact on others. But again, bringing it back to self and being, I would say, the best version, but again, I feel that's limiting sometimes as an expression. Just being the most optimal version of who we can be within our present set of circumstances in the present moment, and making the most optimal choices that we can with the least amount of damage to ourselves or others in that process as well. I'll leave that there. Let's get some runes for the week ahead. We have Fehu in the reverse. So there could be a very strong feeling here of recognizing where we haven't been valued, or where we have misplaced value on other things. There we have it. Perhaps there are situations and circumstances within life, within our lives, again, we're responsible for us, where we have misplaced value. And this could be in things that perhaps have a certain level of wealth, of status, thinking about buying a certain car or a house or a job. They come with a certain amount of status that is then understood on a subconscious level by people walking around. It becomes these subconscious identifications that categorize people. And we can hide, or we can find ourselves getting lost within our attribution of value, the way we weight our focus on certain things within our own lives. So what this is saying to me is that we need to be very conscious of what feels outgrown, what perhaps doesn't feel like it fits anymore, and perhaps just having that realization that we've been focusing on investing a lot of energy, a lot of attention, a lot of importance onto particular things. But actually, the value was never within them. The value is within us, recognizing our own inherent value, worth, and also recognizing what truly matters and values, what is valuable, excuse me, what is valuable to us right now. And I don't want to say right now, but when we have these revelations of truth, when we come to those places where we have a deep thought process, emotional process, clearing process, things can often feel different on the other side of them. We don't necessarily look at them at the same way. And some of those goals or visions or ambitions that we were chasing suddenly seem less important. For example, we can be really, really focused on career or particular aspects of life, and then face an illness or a loss of some kind. And it's one of those really hard, difficult experiences that stops us in our tracks and makes us reassess our value. So I feel like this is saying that there is going to be a reassessment of values that is going to be really important, but very, very beneficial in the long term. But again, it means that we need to be able to be honest. It comes back to truth and having a truthful evaluation of both our emotional experience and the logical process of, well, what actually does matter to me? Where can I pull back that energy from that to reinvest into something that does feel like I want to put more value on that in my life. This isn't things happening to us on the outside. This is where we can have control of or take control, a bit of control over our emotional experiences. And, that's the heart of growth. It's recognizing that we're not completely powerless and that we do actually have a great deal of personal power. And personal power is personal. It's something that we can use to activate changes and growth within ourselves. There's two that are coming out together. We have Nathis and Othala. Interesting. It almost feels like, for some will resonate with this will be too woo-woo for others. Perhaps there is a destined set of circumstances of discomfort, of dissatisfaction, reaching the end of an experience, achieving a goal, getting to a certain place in life, whatever it may be, whatever the situation for you, and then realizing that it came with another level of dissatisfaction and generally just not feeling it. Those can sometimes be the destined awakenings that we need. They very much tune us into that bigger picture of our experience, again, tying in with the Fehu in the reverse. The value was never in that external thing. The value was in the realization of our emotional experience in doing or achieving or even not achieving that thing. Our failures are just as important as our successes in becoming those guideposts, those benchmarks at which we go, okay, so this wasn't it, that wasn't the thing, that wasn't the one, so there is something else, a sense of destiny. But also focusing on legacy, focusing on what it is that we're building and creating that is going to be shared. And, the concept of inheritance held within Othala can make us think of children, of legacy, of family, of what we're leaving for them. But that isn't just having a monetary value. It is in our actions, in the way we conduct ourselves, in the life that we're living, and what it is that we teach with them and share with them. If not children, then it's the other people in your community, in your life, the people that you engage with, you show up and interact with on a daily basis, and that you serve in your own ways, within your role, within your capacity. This is asking us to look at where we've reached the end of the road with certain things, where maybe we feel starved in certain ways, because now these connects to a sense of starvation, of restriction, of not having. So there is this feeling then perhaps of feeling emotionally starved or starved of a particular emotion within a particular situation in life, that you're now ready to make changes to have the experience of. So definitely looking at what is calling to us, what no longer feels like it is. Maybe it feels like it's taking and draining from us, rather than having that mutual rise of energy when you engage with it, which is always a really good reminder of what we're supposed to be investing energy in, because we feel energized by doing it, not completely depleted and drained. Final room. And we have Lagus in the reverse. And it's interesting because Lagus came out last time and he fell on the floor. And this feels almost like a similar energy. It's like that energy of restriction. What is blocking our natural flow? What is blocking us feeling like we can embrace that sense of destiny, of what is maybe calling to us, that is at a deep personal level, something that we want to experience, or something that becomes an interest that we want to acknowledge and explore. Now, Lagus is saying that perhaps there is a feeling of our own power being diminished or drained. Maybe we feel that sense of restriction or a sensation of loss or not having. And this is asking us to see where we have become stuck in patterns that has actually reduced our own sensation of flow, ability to flow with life's changes, or where holding on to some of these old self-identifications is keeping us stuck in a way that can't shift through this energy. There is a desire for movement here, and movement being flow that isn't just physical movement, it's energetic movement. And where we stifle our own self-expression, we become quite stuck. Now, I can relate to this a lot because I've been posting a lot less on social media through the summer, because I've just been focused on nurturing my own self-exploration. But I recently wrote quite a long post about the Lagus rune when visiting I visited the coast, and had a very deep processing about our connection with water. And it's over there if you'd like to go and read it, over on my Instagram. But I feel like there is this sense of magnitude, of wider, deeper connection, and really reconnecting with what inspires us, with what feels nurturing to our spirit, to our inner being, to our soul. What is flowing energy back into us, and where are we feeling those sensations of blockage, of restriction, that needs to shift in some way to allow us to reconnect and to find flow once again. And those are questions that really are, again, very personal. This truth that comes up, this truth to be explored, is so completely subjective. It's yours. It can't be wrong. If that's your emotional experience, it can't be wrong. And really honoring and connecting with that truth it just feels so vital at this point in time, at this point in our collective growth, in our own emotional experiences, in our own lives. We're not owned or governed by these celestial movements, by any particular experience, by any particular path. It's there for us to explore and to come to the deeper inner truth and understand ourselves and what it is that makes us human, what connects us all, what it is that makes us so much more than human in so many ways, and that wider energetic connection that we experience. So I'm going to leave this here for you. I hope this brought benefit to you in some kind of way, maybe shifted some perspective, or just was useful. It's always my pleasure to complete them. Thank you so much. If you've made it to the end, thank you for spending half an hour of your life with me. I really honor and value that, and I'm very grateful. So, and your love, and I'll speak to you again really, really soon.